Hi, and welcome to the Origami Fold Along with the Joplin Public Library. This is the summer reading Tales and Tales, so we'll try to stay on theme a little bit. Thank you for Beth and McKenna for having me here today. My name is Gideon Horn. A little bit about origami first, a little bit of history. Nothing that you can't go to Wikipedia and find out yourself, but I'll give you the too long didn't read version. So origami is massively considered to be a Japanese paper folding art, which it is. It was invented in Japan in the 1600s through about the mid-1800s during the Edo period of Japan, where also in pop culture it's known for the modernization or the traditionalization of Japanese architecture and also the hierarchy of samurai. That was when samurai were most popular in the day-to-day culture of the Japanese. However, origami can actually be traced further back to Imperial China in the 15th century. Most commonly, it was used as a wedding celebration where they would take colored pieces of paper and fold them to resemble gold nuggets and then set them afire during the wedding ceremony. So that's when paper folding traces back to. In Japan, it was most commonly used for cloth ornamentation or architectural, like you see many of the paper buildings in Japanese architecture, and also the very elaborately folded bows that you would wear on a traditional kimono. So that's where origami traces back to Japan. The more modern idea of constructing a sculpture out of a piece of paper is more easily traced back to even the 17th century of Japan. The 1790s was when the first illustrated pamphlet called 1,000 Cranes was released, and it was a pictogram and an instructional booklet on how to fold a traditional Japanese crane. This one right here, which hopefully I will be teaching you how to fold today. That might have been a little bit longer than the too long didn't read. But that is the gist of it for the history of origami. The most recent modernization of it was when it was brought to Europe in the early 1900s, and especially the French began to practice napkin folding. Which brings us to today. That's actually how I learned to fold origami. It was, funnily enough, a package of solo napkins that happened to have the same instructions for folding a Japanese crane that could be found on the 1790s booklet, 1,000 Cranes. True story. So that's that part. So the first thing I would like to do with everybody today is some practice folds. So what you'll want to do is get a piece of paper. It doesn't matter what color it is for this one. If you were part of the teen program, you will have been provided with a manila envelope with several pieces of paper. I'm going to use this nice purple color. So, for our first practice fold, we want to start with the colored side up and have it facing you as it were a diamond. Not a square, but as a diamond. And we're going to do a diagonal fold, so along this axis here. So we're going to fold from this point to this point, long ways diagonally, towards ourselves. So the idea of this is to make sure that all the corners meet up and you have the crease run through the exact center. So the first thing you should do is get the two outside corners pinched together exactly, and then run your finger down the middle to the bottom of your crease, and then work your way out, just like that. And now what I like to do, especially when we're doing practice folds or pre-folds, is to take and make the crease very sharp. And to do that, you would just take your fingernail and just stiffen up that crease to be just as tight as it could be on this piece of paper. You could also use a pencil, a ruler, and there's also some letter openers that are meant to do exactly that. And it'll look like this, a triangle. It's okay if you get a little bit of overlap on the color of the corners. That happens. It's going to be very difficult, even buying pre-made pieces of paper, to find one that is perfectly square. So now open it back up and turn it in the 180 degrees in the other direction so that the crease you just made is running up and down from you. We're going to do the same thing again. Color side up, fold from this point here to this point here, diagonally towards us. This one should be a little bit easier to line up as you already have a central crease right there. So again, putting the outside corners together right here, working our way up with our hand to the middle, and then smoothing it out to the outside edges. And then go ahead and crease it with your fingernail so that you get a nice crisp crease. Now if you open up this piece of paper, you have a perfect X indicating the exact center of your piece of paper. So now put your paper back down, this side white side up, and we're going to have it as a square towards us, as compared to a diamond, a square. So now we're going to fold it in half as a sandwich between this point here and this point here, so that the top and bottom leading edges meet up exactly. So bringing it towards us, make sure that the corners meet up as precisely as you can. And then much the same as how we did the diagonals, we're going to hold it in the center, work our way up to the middle, and then crease from the inside out and sharpen it with your fingernail. So you have a rectangle, and you now have 3 lines indicating the exact center of your paper. And now once again, wide side up, rotate it 180 degrees, and fold it horizontally in this direction. Coming up to center, creasing from the inside out, sharpening it with your fingernail. So what we have here now, if you open up your paper, is 4 creases that should intersect, if not exactly, then very close to the exact center of your paper. So now we're going to do something a little bit funky with the shape we just made. So with the white side up, hold it as a diamond, like this, as compared to a square. Now what you want to do is take your 2 outside corners, here and here, and you'll notice something, that because we folded the paper in opposite directions, you have recessed creases and peaked creases. And you can see that the peaked creases are naturally going to want to begin to collapse this paper. So if you take the outside corners from underneath and you start to raise them up, the whole thing should start to collapse, begin to look like a crown like this. And now those 2 outside corners, take and pinch them flat and continue to bring them up towards the middle. Now keeping hold of it, if you lay it back down flat with those 2 points facing you, you should be able to entirely collapse it into a new, smaller square that now has 4 flaps. This is what is known as a Ben's base or a bird base. This will be the base for creating almost any origami model imaginable. Not all, and certainly not all of the most advanced ones, but from beginning to intermediate to even most expert models, this is the very base that will get you started in any model. So that's our practice folds. So we're going to go ahead and set that aside for a minute. The next thing I'm going to be showing you is an actual model. We have an origami emperor penguin. This one is a little bit simpler, but it is very satisfying, and you can adjust the height of your penguin to be however you like. So if you were to make multiple, you can have one that is taller and one that is shorter. You can have a little couple of penguins if you like. Alright, so pick the color of paper you would like for your penguin. I'm going to be using black. Now, start with it white side up as a diamond. The first thing you'll want to do is, like we had done before, make a diagonal fold. Bringing the 2 points down and then to meet up like this. And then your hand up the middle and greasing it across. Alright, now open it back up and rotate it so that the crease you just made is running up and down from you, like so. Now we're going to make a kite. We're going to take the outside corner and we're going to fold it into the center so that the straight edge of the paper is run across that crease we just made. I'll go ahead and fold it and show you. So that on one side we have a shape that looks like this. And go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side so that we have the complete kite shape. And we now have a shape that looks like this. Okay, very nice. This is, like I've said a bunch of times, known as a kite base. It's a more common base for simpler models than the Ben's base. So now what we want to do, since we have it kite shaped with the pointy bit facing us, take the smaller pointy bit and fold it out however much you like. I'm going to fold mine so that this is about a 2 or 3 inch piece. This is one of the points where you can adjust the height of your penguin. So once you've got it folded and nice and creased, it should look like this. And go ahead and unfold it. And now pick a point slightly above the crease you just made. So for me, I'm going to go about 3/4 of an inch and fold it down to the center once again. So it should look like this. Your new triangle should be a little bit shorter than your old triangle. So instead of unfolding it this time, I'm going to take the triangle and fold it back up, but this time with a slight overlap, so that you get a shape that looks like this. And now we're going to fold it back down along the original crease that we had made so that you have this shape. This is going to be the head of our emperor penguin. So now go ahead and flip it all the way over so that the solid side is facing up and the head is now facing away from you. Now we're going to take this bottom point and fold it up to the center, again, however much you like. This is another one of the steps that's going to affect the height of the penguin. For me, I'm going to fold it up about 2 or 3 inches. And now, take your penguin, grip it by the top and the bottom, and fold it in half inwards on the triangle you just created, so that the head is on the outside. It should look like this. Now for the exciting part, grab the penguin by the beak and by the neck, and then with the hand that's holding the beak, slide it outwards and it will begin to go 3-dimensional. Once you get the head to an angle you like, grab a hold of it and then pinch and crease at the top of his head to hold it in place. Open them up a little bit, and there you have your freestanding emperor penguin. Alright, now that we have our penguin, the next one that I would like to show you is this emperor butterfly. Wow. You like my emperor puns? So, let's go ahead and pick out a piece of paper, a color that we would like for our emperor butterfly. I'm going to go with this nice light blue. So we're going to start with it white side up and holding it this time as a square, not a diamond, a square. And we're going to fold it horizontally rather than diagonally. So bring it in half once again so that your corners meet up nicely. To the middle, to the sides. Okay, opening it back up, rotate it so that the crease you just made is now running up and down from you, and do the same thing again. Fold it horizontally. And then unfold it. Now rotate it so that it's diagonal, so that it's a diamond, not a square, a diamond, and fold it in half diagonally. Still white side up. You'll do that in both directions so that we have our 4 creases. I might have forgotten to say turn it and do it again, but alright, so now flip your paper over so that it is color side up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the points and fold from the point to the center in between these 2 points that have been indicated by our horizontal creases. So that when we fold it down, putting the point in the center, we have this nice Superman logo shape. Now we're going to repeat that step on all 4 corners, folding them between the horizontal creases to the center point. Alright, so now unfold it all again. There's a lot of pre-creases in origami. So now flip your sheet over so that it is white side up. Now we're going to do something very similar, except for on the horizontal. We're going to fold the horizontal edge up to the center crease. So that you have a shape that looks like this. We're going to unfold it and repeat that step on each of the horizontal edges. Some of these might be good times to speed through it, like speed up the steps in editing. And congratulations, you're finally done with the pre-folds. So, pick 2 of your horizontal edges and fold them both into the center so that you have a rectangle like this. Now, if you hold it from the bottom towards yourself, like so, you'll notice that because of all the creases we made, the top is quite happy to stay open. So what you'll want to do is reach around to the other side, underneath, and begin to bring that point towards you. And you'll notice that those 2 points are wanting to stay out. So as you come about halfway up, you have this boat shape. Continue to come towards yourself, holding the center point down and letting the points fan out to become this odd broken arrow shape. Now set it back on the table with that shape you just made facing you, and do the same thing on the opposite end. Reaching underneath, bringing it towards you, letting those points open up, coming to the center, flattening it. So now you have this Legend of Zelda rupee shape. Hopefully y'all ain't too old for that, ain't too young for that. Alright, so now put the solid side up and fold it in half so that you now have this boat shape. And now this part might be easiest done in the air. Grab one of your points, it doesn't matter on which end, but for my purpose I'll use the back end, and bring it down like this. Open it out and do the same thing on both sides, so that now we have this upside down triangle. Put it down flat on the table once again, and now you'll have 2 different sides. You'll have this side that has this opening running horizontally, and this side which has the openings running vertically. So you'll want to set it face down with the vertical openings face up, so that you have this. So now this part is, once again, kind of up to you. We're going to fold it from this point to this point along this dotted line. So we're going to fold it in towards us like so, and it doesn't have to be all the way down to the tail point, but so that when we're done we have a shape that looks like this. And we're going to repeat that technique on the other side, making it match as closely as possible. Like so. Now this will create a pointier tail section of the butterfly. If you wanted your tail section to be more squared off, like this one, the only thing you would have to do different is fold in between a higher point on the tail, so it would look more, the paper will be a little thick right here, so it won't be super crisp, but that's okay. Now unfold it and flip it around to the other side that we didn't fold towards, and along that same crease we just made, fold it in that direction also. It might fight you a little bit because the crease is going in the opposite direction, but that's okay, you'll get it to lay down. Now, if we unfold it once again and pinch it by the top of our head, we should be able to open up the wings and naturally create that opened wingspan shape for our butterfly. And that is our completed emperor butterfly. If you'd like, fold his head back and forth a little bit, just like this, to crisp that up, and it should stay a little bit better for you. Now if you like, this would be a fun time. Maybe draw some designs on the wings, paint, stickers, however you like. Alright, now we have our emperor penguin and our emperor butterfly. The next one I would like to show you is a little bit more on theme with summer reading. I would like to show you how to make this Tyrannosaurus Rex or dinosaur. So pick out your piece of paper that you would like to use for your dinosaur. For me, I'm going to use this orange color. Now this one is a little bit more difficult than the past two, so if you can't get it, don't worry about it too much. Just pause the video, slow it down, take as much time as you need. Alright, so starting with it, color side up, we're going to rotate it so that it's diagonal to us, diamond shaped once again. And we're once more going to fold it diagonally, point to point, making a center crease. And then unfold it. Now we'll rotate it so that that crease we just made is running up and down from us. And once more, we're going to make a kite. Taking the outside corner, bringing it to the center crease. So that we have this shape. And doing the same thing on the other side. Now this fold, while not very difficult, is a little bit tricky, doesn't make a lot of sense. So what we need to do is we need to bring, with the kite facing us with the orange on top, we want to bring this outside edge along the edge we've created by bringing the two flaps of our kite together. So, grabbing by the outside point, bring it down so that this edge runs along this edge. And crease it so you now have an asymmetrical kite shape, like this. Now unfold that point you just made and flip the paper over with the white side or solid side up. Now, by making that crease we just made, we've actually created a cross section between the center crease and that crease, right here. So, we're going to take our narrow point and we're going to bring it up to that cross section that we just created. So that we now have this flat-bottomed kite shape. You can see how the point meets up with this intersection. And now we're going to put it back colored side up. And now here's the fun thing. Because geometry works, we'll fold from this point to this point along this dotted line, and it should make a perfectly squared off bottom. So when you're done, you'll have a shape that looks like this. That should be perfectly square at the bottom. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we now have this house shape. This is what the back looks like. Beginning on the front. So now we're going to set it down. Color side down, white side up. Now we're going to unfold this tail so that we now have our completed stingray. Just kidding. So we have this shape. And now we need to fold it in half between this point and this point here. So here and here need to meet. So bringing the point from the top down to the center crease, making that rectangle shape in the middle, fold in half. So that we have a shape that looks like this, or like this. Alright, so put it back down with this open side face up so that it's white on top and orange on the bottom. So now we need to fold between this point and this point along the dotted line. And with it held like this, we're going to fold it outwards. It's not going to line up perfectly with the edge, and that's okay. It's meant to not to. It's meant to not to. It's not meant to. So when you're done, you have a shape that looks like this. And from the other side, looks like this. You can see how the edges haven't met up perfectly, and that's fine. Going back to our face, we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Symmetry is often key in origami. If you do something to one side of the paper, you can usually count that it's going to be on both. So when you're done, a shape that looks like this from the front and this from the back. Alright. Now, having it up in the air like this, with the front side facing yourself, grab this house shape by the point and unfold it back down So you now have your completed stingray. Still kidding. So you'll have the colored side up now. Now you have a white side and a colored side. Go colored side up. And flip it over to the white side up because that's the wrong thing. So now we're going to fold it between this point and this point along the dotted line. We're going to be folding it inwards. So that once you're done, you have a shape that looks like this. Putting it back down flat. Do the same thing on the other side to match. Looks like this. Okay, now we need to fold this point down, but not from this pre-made crease. We have two little color triangles right here, and right here. We need to fold it in half along those 2 points. So rather than folding it along the crease that was already there, we end up with a shape that looks like this from the front, and this from the back. Now with that crease that we just made, the point facing us, we want to fold it back up, but this time between these 2 points. Along the dotted line. So that crease that was already there is now going to indicate the bottom of the fold that we're making right now. So that when you're done, it looks like this from the back and this from the front. Now this part will be a little bit easier because there's a crease, a central crease that we've already made running through the middle of the model. We want to fold this bottom tail up along that crease. You might have to resharpen up from some of the new folds that we've made. That's okay. Now the points won't quite meet each other at the top, and that's okay. It will look like this. Now if you look closely, you'll see what we have here are 2 triangular pockets on the bottom left and right corners. So we're going to fold it down in half again, but between these 2 points along the dotted line created by those 2 triangular pockets. So back down. So that you have a shape that looks like this from the back and this from the front. We're almost done. Now, if you have it backside facing up, you'll have a triangle that's completely white and a triangle with 2 colored bits on the bottom. We want the colored triangle facing us with the white triangle on top. Now this is once again up to you how you'd like to do this. This will affect the shape of the head. We're going to take the tippy point of the triangle and fold it down an indeterminate amount along the center line. I'm going to do mine about 1 inch, but you have a shape that looks like this. Okay, now you're ready to fold it in half diagonally with the white side up. Reach underneath one of the legs and fold it in half. So that it's entirely your color on the outside. And now turn it so that the straight edge is pointed away from you. And now you're ready to fold your head. Now, like I said before, symmetry is usually key when you're doing origami. Not so in this case. The head will go off to one side. So you're going to fold it between this point here, which indicates the shoulders, and then whichever point along this edge that you like. So that when you fold it down, it creates your head shape. It will be asymmetrical, and it's meant to. His head's just off to one side. And there you have your finished freestanding T-Rex. So pick out the color you would like for your crane. I'm going to go with this peach color. So we're going to do what we did at the very beginning of the video and create a Ben's base or a bird base. So having the paper colored side up, have it diagonal to you as a diamond. Then we'll fold it diagonally. Then you'll unfold it, rotate it so that the crease is up and down from you, and do it once again. And unfold it so that we now have our cross. Now flip it over so that it's white side up. We're going to fold it in half horizontally. And unfold, rotate, and fold in half horizontally in the other direction. And unfold. Now rotate it so that it's a diamond. And remember from the beginning, we're going to take our two outside corners and begin to bring them upwards in 3 dimensions towards the center. You'll see the whole model start to collapse. Pinch those corners flat as you do this. Bring it up to the center. Lay it down flat with the open points facing towards you, and flatten out your model. So you now have your broken down square, your Ben's base or your bird base. Now with this smaller square, we're actually going to make 2 kite bases, one on each side, because we now have flaps. Rather than fold both layers at once, we're going to fold just the top layer. You'll have 2 points, an open point and a closed point. You want the closed point facing up. Now grabbing one of the corners, just the top layer, fold it over to the center so that you have your first half of your kite base, but just on the top. So you'll have a shape that looks like this. And repeat it with just one layer on the other side. So that it will look like this. Now, with your closed point being on top. Fold it down along the shoulders of the kite that you've just made, down along the center line, so that you have your condensed Superman logo, like this. Now unfold those 3 folds you've just done. Now what you can notice is that aside from holding it down, the points do not want to lay all the way down, and that's fine. We're going to now create a stretched bird base using the fact that these points are not wanting to lay down. So you'll see that your top layer is actually 2 layers of paper. So you want to reach to your bottom point, your bottom open point, and grab just 1 layer of paper. Just 1 layer of paper. And you'll want to pick it up along this crease that you've made when you folded the closed point down. So holding the rest of the paper down, pick your top layer up and begin to let it open up. You can see that the paper is naturally wanting to create a boat shape. And continue to let it. And as you raise that point ever higher, the sides of your triangles are going to be ready to lay down. Creating the first half of your stretched bird base. So once again, this is how we started, with this crease on the top. Grabbing by all but 1 layer, grabbing but all 1 layer of paper, take your top layer, fold it up, and you can see how it's folding along that crease that we made. Fold it up, it will stretch and create this boat shape. Then laying it back down flat, continue to stretch and allow that boat shape to flatten out so that your sides meet up in the center. You have this elongated diamond or your stretched bird base. Now flip it over so that your basic square is on the top and your stretched diamond is on the bottom. We're going to repeat those steps. We're going to create our kite with just the top flaps. It looks like this. And now this point, the closed point, will already be creased in the wrong direction. We need to recrease that down. Window security. Towards the kite we just made, so in the opposite direction of how it's already creased. So that when you're done, you have the shape that looks like this. And now unfold those 3 creases that you just made. Now doing the same thing we did on the other side. I'm going to grab just 1 layer of paper from the open point on the bottom and hold the rest of it. Allow it to naturally crease along that closed point crease right here that we've already made. Bringing it up, allowing it to make this boat shape. Laying it down flat and letting it close the rest of the way. And this is a completed stretched bird base. Now, while not exclusive to bird-shaped origami sculptures, it is most commonly used in bird-shaped origami sculptures, as what this does is set us up for a neck and head, a tail, and 2 wings. That being in mind, we want to set it down with the wing points facing up and the leg points facing down. Now we want to make a stretched kite. So what we're going to do is fold from the outside edge to the center just like we would a normal kite. But because it is in a stretched diamond, it won't look quite the same, but rather look more like this. So with the wingtip end on top and the leg end on bottom, rotate it so that the wingtips are now pointed to your left, my right, and the legs are pointed to my left, your right. And we're going to fold in between this point on the wingtip end and this point on the leg end. Along the dotted line. Keeping the legs on the left, take this central point and bring it up so that this straight edge runs through the center of your model. So you have a shape that looks like this, but the legs are still open on the bottom. Now, put it back down flat, rotate it in the opposite direction, do the same thing on the other side. So that you now have the first half of a stretched kite. Now lay it down with the stretched kite face down and the solid side face up. And do the same thing on this side. Except for this time, you will have your last edge to use as reference. And then you'll have your completed stretched kite. So once you have that done, you should still have your 2 legs, which are now spindly, on the bottom, and your 2 wingtips on top. Set it up just like that, with your wingtips on top and your legs on the bottom. Now you'll notice that you still have multiple layers of paper. So, I want you to reach inside of your model on the right hand side, your left, my right, and fold the top layer of paper over like this. And now you'll have a side that just has 1 layer and one side that has 3 layers. Flip your model over so that now your 3 layers on the opposite side. Reach into the top layer on my right, your left, and fold it over so that you now have 2 layers on both sides. So that when you hold it upright now, the wingtips now appear to be legs, and the legs now appear to be wingtips. But these are still the legs on the bottom, and you'll have this closed triangle on top. And set it that way with the closed triangle on top. Now, you should have a central crease that we've already made running right along the middle of your leg. Fold the leg up along that crease. And essentially, all the tips will converge at the very top of the model. Flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Now on this side, once again, artistic preference, take the very tip of the top leg flap that you folded up and fold it down an indeterminate amount. For me, I'm going to go about so that the point comes to the middle. This is going to become the head of our crane. So that on one side, it just looks like this. On the other side, it just looks like this. Now hold it knife edge to you so that it's flat like this. And then go ahead. On the bottom you should have 4 corners. On the bottom you should have 4 corners. Make those corners meet each other, but just in the opposite direction. Essentially undoing the folds we did when we make those 4 corners meet, just in opposites. Folding the head section you just made in half and the tail section you just made also in half. Like this. Now the paper might get a little cramped up in there. We are working with fairly fine points, and that's okay. Adds a little bit of character and uniqueness to your model. So now put it with the wingtips faced up, away from you, and the squared off bit at the bottom. What you'll notice is we have 2 sets of triangular pockets, a top set and this bottom set. What we're going to do is fold the wings down along the bottom set. So between these 2 points along the dotted line. So that you have a shape that looks like this. Now flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Should be easy because you could just make the wing tips meet at the bottom. Now we're almost done. You should have a shape that looks like this. It is meant to be taller on the one side. So we're going to employ the same technique that we used with the emperor penguin. We're going to reach inside of this shorter neck, grab the tip, which is the crane's face, and pull it out to whatever angle you like. Then pinch it at the top to hold it in place. Like this. Now grab the crane by the top of the head and pull the neck down to whatever angle you like. And then pinch it on the bottom to keep it in place. And then, once more, grab the tail from the tip, pull it down to whatever angle you like, pinch it at the bottom, reach up in between your wing flaps, press them out, and you have a completed and classic, historic origami crane. Now if you want yours to look like my model, which resembles the one from the original manuscript of 1,000 Cranes, grab him by the wingtips. You can be done right here. This is perfectly fine. But if you would like yours to look like my model that I originally showed you, grab him by the middle of the wings and spread them apart. And that closed triangle in the middle will start to flatten out and open up. This would be the most accurate and historic representation of how the crane had originally appeared, but is totally unnecessary. Like this. So he's now flat on top. You don't have to do it all the way. You can do it however you like. And that's done. So thank you so much for folding along with us today. I hope you learned something. Before we go, I'd like to show you a little bit of what's possible if you stick with origami. Some models that I've been working on myself. First, I'd like to show you this. This is Pegasus. This particular model takes about 45 minutes to fold and does freestand. Comes with a horn and a tail and 4 legs. It's all made out of one square sheet of paper. There's never any cuts, glues, or deliberate tears in the paper. Sometimes it tears a little bit, but that's okay. Next, I'd like to show you my Pegasus. Comes with 4 legs and a tail and 2 crimped wings. This model takes an hour and 15 minutes to fold. And again, just using one square sheet of paper. Now I know how to fold a lot of dragons, but I'd like to show you this one. This one is my favorite dragon. While this dragon doesn't have any arms, his wingspan is actually quite a bit wider than most of the other dragons I know how to fold. It comes with a pleated tail and not only 2 points on the face, but 5 points for the horns, which is very impressive to me. And I would last like to show you my favorite model. This one takes about 2 hours to fold out of one piece of paper. This is the grasshopper. Now what's really neat to me about this model is what's neat to me about any models is whenever you can pull so many points out of a 4-cornered square piece of paper. This one has a point for the tail, 2 points for the back legs, 2 points for the wings, 4 points for the side legs, 1 point for the face, and 2 antennae. That's amazing to me. And like I said, it takes about 2 hours to fold and about 8 to 10 years of experience. So stick with it. Thank you so much for joining me once again.